Weatherproofing is all about keeping you comfortable in your home. Did you know the heating and cooling you pay for can escape through gaps around exterior doors, windows, light switches, and electrical outlets?
Even outlets? Wow, I didn't realize that. So how do I prevent those from leaking?
It's so easy. Just pop in an insulated outlet or light switch cover.
Some solid advice.
I always wondered what was the problem. It wasn't drugs, it was just, she just didn't want to have it. She just didn't want it. She just didn't want to have that many kids. Who wanted to come into this world and be found out that your parents don't love you? Because that's all I take it as. You can't love me enough, because if I had 8 kids today, you hear me? I don't care what stipulations that I go through, I'm gonna be there.
Hi, I'm Rick.
I'm Mary Beth. We're in Memphis, a city rich in history but plagued with poverty. One of the country's poorest zip codes is steps away from world-famous Beale Street, and you can find mansions just down the street from abandoned houses.
We take those throwaway houses and turn them into homes.
For people returning from prison in the hopes of building a better life. We know something about second chances. We met in a tiny East Tennessee town when we were 13, and I was crazy about it.
First time I saw Mary Beth, I knew that she was the girl for me. Problem was, I was shy.
Until 40 years later. And in between all that, we had kids, we had marriages.
I had prison, and now we want to help other people that have made mistakes. Some people flip houses.
We flip lives.
Make sure we cut all these joints. Same length.
Meet 28-year-old electrician Joe Reed, former foster kid, former felon. And with his 100-watt smile and infectious laugh, a favorite member of the Flip My Life family.
He danced like he in but he rhythm though. A ball.
The Memphis Heat Index is close to 110 as electricians Joe, Cello, and Tucson wrap up wiring so we can get the sheetrock hung. But Joe smiles just as much as he sweats.
I wonder if that's your biggest gift.
Oh yeah.
Your optimism.
Yeah. I think it comes from me having to accept that my mama gave me away. And after I accepted it, it was like, I'm gonna treat everybody else with love and care, but it's not my mom, so I can't be heartbroken again. I was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan. My mom, she had 11 kids, and somewhere doing it, she just couldn't deal. My grandma died like 3 weeks after we came at her, and we all just went in the system.
He was just 2 years old.
My first was Miss Beatrice Peace, Miss Cheryl, Shelter, Mama Jenny, Mr. Dan, Mr. Danny.
Not a long time in any home, right?
Well, I was actually adopted in one of my homes. Yeah, it was horrible.
So you ended up back in a home.
Yeah.
A state home, right?
Yes, ma'am.
For
about 2 years. The times that I spent in my adopted home really almost destroyed me. So even going to juvenile was better than going there. I ran away because I knew they was gonna give me 90 days.
Wow. So you kept running away
every
trying
time
to get to a better place to live.
Yeah, every time. And all
Because detention was a better place
that
to
was
live.
way better than the house.
Wow.
You hear me? So I did, even though I knew I wasn't supposed to be in jail, I knew that the system, I knew that they didn't have nowhere to send me but jail. You hear me?
And it was still better than that.
Yeah, it was way better. You hear me? Wow. And I just kept running away.
Just as juvenile detention was easy, 2 stints in prison were a breeze.
Everybody talk about how much time they did in prison. I'm like, well, I did about 21. They was like, ain't no way.
Just different. They called it something.
They just called it foster care. You hear me? I was born in it. What's up? I never thought I was gonna be there long enough. In my head I already gave myself a time. You hear me? I was like, well, be here for 6 months. Might as well enjoy it. I didn't even care if they was gonna show me more love than they showed anybody else. I just knew this wasn't gonna be long term. Never fall too deep in love, so I won't leave an emotional attachment. I know that now in life I have problems with it because this is the only way I knew how to survive. My whole life I was taught how to survive. I wasn't taught how to cook, wasn't taught how to clean, wasn't taught how to do taxes, wasn't taught how to work, wasn't taught nothing else. I was taught how to survive. That's the only thing they showed me. I went to prison right after I got out of foster care.
I feel for anybody that's been in foster care. Mom and Dad, we've had several families, all of them, rough lives.
I remember the Pace kids.
Yeah.
I used to babysit them.
They were awesome. You came over and tried to show off your fancy pants one time. But yes, I remember.
Those were some great
And
looking
I
pants.
think 2 or 3 out of that family ended up in jail.
We meet up with Rick's brother and mother to talk about that.
Johnny came in kicking and screaming.
He was scared? Or?
He was scared. He didn't know. He's 4 years old. He didn't understand.
Was he afraid he would be abused again, you think?
I'm sure. The unknown, just the unknown, that he didn't know what he was doing there, even though his siblings were there,
Yeah.
and they were apprehensive, I'm sure.
Well, they'd been through so much.
Yeah, they had. But we had this big German Shepherd. You remember Keena?
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah. Keena made the difference. He finally latched onto Keena, and Keena just hugged him, and that's when he finally calmed down.
Well, as I recall, Keena was pretty special to...
I told Mary Beth Keena taught me how to spoon.
Do you know that he is filming this?
We gotta be truthful. We'd lay down with Keena, watch a game. Next thing you know, our arms around her belly. I do her the same way.
My leg kicks when he does it right. I bet they just hated to leave.
Yeah.
It was very hard. It was hard for the whole family, but I was the one that had to go in and sat him down in the bed.
Does it surprise you that it didn't work out so well for them as adults?
As an adult now, especially as you become a parent, I'm not surprised now when things weren't as rosy as what we all hoped and prayed they would be,
It hurt when Jackie was the oldest. He kind of had problems with the law. Robert had problems with alcohol. He was the third. Johnny had problems with the law and some alcohol. They had their problems, and finding out later what we found out about foster children. They were placed in several different houses, but their life was not rosy.
What they went through before we got them, and then having to adjust and leaving somebody that they loved.
Look at you. He has cried more in this show. There's at least 6 different times tears have been shed, and 4 of them are his.
I'm not the
That's
only one.
okay. That's okay, son.
Makes you think. Well, I remember that.
Think back on it.
What?
Never saw. Dad cry much. But I remembered he teared up then. It's weird. Never thought of that till just that moment. I think he missed the kids.
He did.
Dad loved.
Yeah.
Dad loved every one of the foster kids we had. He wouldn't call them, I told you, he wouldn't call them foster kids. They were his kids.
Yeah.
Every day you're
Every
looking
day.
at that.
Oh.
Where am I going to be tomorrow? Because we had kids come in that did that. It was like scared to death that they weren't going to be there. And you had to deal with that.
Most definitely. And I'm saying, I woke up in one home, I'll never forget. Woke up and it was the social worker standing there. Didn't know I was leaving.
Oh, man.
They didn't even know I didn't know.
So it doesn't surprise you at all that when the statistics say that 9 out of 10 kids who have been in more than 5 foster homes, all that change, go to prison.
Prison.
That doesn't surprise you at all?
And when you feel unloved from homes, there is nothing. My people didn't love me. From like 15 all the way to 19, about 10 different homes.
Wow.
They said that I wasn't good enough. They might just say it out of their mouth, but them telling me that I couldn't stay there no more told me that I wasn't good enough.
Coming in on your day off.
How you doing? How you doing?
Staying on the record.
Oh yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind. I love y'all.
Sweet.
We found out how much it meant to Joe to just have somebody care about his story. One day toward the end of the project, we needed the light hung, and it was a Saturday.
The porch light. I was so busy trying to do other jobs, and I knew I wasn't going to get to it.
And we were just days away from the reveal. It was Joe's day off, but he came by. He talked Cello into coming with him without being paid. We were like, why?
He just wanted to help out.
You know, anything for y'all. Y'all took the time out to ask me about my life, you hear me? I've never had nobody ask me anything about foster care or care. Or who actually care, and y'all really care. So I appreciate that.
Joe no longer feels he's not good enough. His mentor, Rod Williams, makes sure of that. They met when Rod came back behind bars to teach the electrical trade to people sitting where he once had.
Meeting Mr. Williams and knowing his story and learning his story, you know, it's a blessing for people to transition their life, and it makes me keep going. You hear me? So he was a big motivation in my life. I never thought I'd be doing no electrical work. Never thought that. If it weren't Mr. Williams, I'd probably be in prison.
The next few days are busy, starting with the delivery of new windows.
They said that you'd come back tomorrow and help me put these in. Is that? Huh? No?
Got to pay me a little extra.
We've chosen black frames to set off the soft white of the painted brick, and Rick can't wait to get started.
Aren't I just precious? I'm so cute. I'm sorry, this is where I'm supposed to say, oh, Mary Beth, you're so lovely.
But it's not long before the triple-digit heat index saps his enthusiasm.
I think it's gonna look good. I'm gonna drop a ceiling fan right here.
I bet you wish you had one right now.
God, yeah.
And the next morning, the slow pace turns out to be a lucky break. So we get on the job site this morning, bad news.
First thing I noticed is the glass broke out of the window. All my 2x4s are gone. Probably about 50, 55 2x4s.
So what's that cost?
About $8 a board, close to $400 right there. I noticed some of my equipment was gone. Now the good thing is, Luigi was supposed to have been here earlier this week to put in a lot of the system. If he had done that, the heat and air units would have been gone. Of course, the guys that broke in here don't know what this house is going to be for. They might be trying to make a living. That might be the only way they know how. Still pisses me off, but I know the neighbors have tried to look out for this place best they can, but you know, when you go to sleep at night,
It's just discouraging. What if when we put, $9,000 of new windows in, how are we going to protect those?
I don't know yet.
But let's count the blessings. They did not damage the new door, right?
No, they didn't break in the new door. They respected it.
And they didn't take,
They
they respected the door.
Damn. We didn't get our 2 windows here, and that's worth some money.
That's good. They didn't steal my curb pick chairs. They're not even worth stealing.
I'll not go there.
So after that, I could not sleep a wink because I couldn't figure out if it made more sense to put the windows in and, just board them up every night because that took a lot of time.
Yeah.
Or leave them in the house and hope nobody broke in and got them because it was like almost $10,000 worth of windows.
Yeah.
At one point, I was like, let's store them in the camper. We could sleep outside.
No, we didn't want to do that.
You didn't want to sleep
I
in the
was
camper.
over the
toward
camper.
end.
Yeah. Anybody want to buy a camper?
We take a break from the heat and the stress by going to watch football practice at Pure Academy in Whitehaven, a part of Memphis best known as the home to the king of rock and roll. A few miles from the mansion called Graceland, Melvin Cole is a different kind of visionary. The school he founded began with a recreational football team of 20 12-year-olds. By early 2024, Pure Academy will serve 300 students. There will be dorms for 100 whose families are desperate for help.
Parents are crying out like, listen, and they tell you, I'm doing all I can do. But the environment is no match for me. I mean, and some of the parents, frankly, they come out to coach. I'm barely making it. It's only so much I can give him. And to no fault of their own, that's how it goes. So I mean, these parents are literally, they want the help, but in terms of how, because the realistic of it is the parents have to work.
Sometimes 2 jobs, 3 jobs.
3 jobs. So now you look in terms of, well, how do you combat that environment? So the kids that want to be removed, remove them. Because those are the ones that really want to change their lives or not have poverty take them by the throat.
So it's maybe the biggest gift that parent can give the child to say, I gotta send you away.
Absolutely.
How are you doing? Good. How are you? Everything going good for you? These guys trying to lead you into trouble? Tell me the truth.
The next day, an uncharacteristic cool spell hits Memphis just in time for crews from Lifeline and the Center for Employment Opportunities to help us tackle the never-ending yard work.
So is he a big part of your motivation?
Everything I do it for them.
As we spend another day with them, the topic of family comes up again and again, either in their hopes as parents themselves or their experience as children.
I always kept getting this spell from school, so they had put me on school probation. Then I got older, like into high school, I was just like a freshman. I just dropped out and just started working.
So your mom didn't make you go back to class?
Well, she couldn't really, cause like she already had issues and stuff, like problems with herself, so.
Gotcha.
And like I'm trying to take care of her at the same time. I look at it normal, but like to any other person, they wouldn't consider it normal. Like
These are the norms. Well, just like you may have 5 generations of MUS graduates or Briarcrest graduates, or you got 5 generations of poverty as well. And I think that's what people forget. Poverty is not a choice. Like when I'm having conversation with donors, you ask the simple question, hey, raise your hand if you want to be born in poverty. And nobody raises their hand. So we're all on the same page. Nobody wants to be born in poverty. Well, a lot of these kids don't have a choice. Well, then, like I say, everybody said, well, look at their parents. Well, all right, now let's rewind their parents. Their parents were born in poverty. So you're looking at generational poverty, and until we attack that head on.
And living on the margins is exhausting.
Every day? For a kid? For your life? So you start thinking about this is what your teens look like, this is what your 20s look like, this is what your 30s look like.
And for the mamas and daddies too. Living on the margins is exhausting, so you might not have the emotional bandwidth to be that parent.
It's not there.
Right.
It's not.
That's
Why?
what people need to understand.
Why? Because they wasn't taught. You get those same kids, you get those same people, white, black, candy stripe, I don't care what color you are, you give them opportunity and resources to take advantage of those opportunities, they'll reach their full potential. I've seen it.
What gets me about this is nobody came for Julius when he dropped out, and we heard that over and over and over again from these guys. And it reminded me of the time my daughter was 5 years old, first week of kindergarten. I'd won a cruise, and so we took her out of school to go on this cruise. And she was 5. The DA sent me a letter saying I would be fined if she missed any more school that year. And yet, he disappears in 10th grade, and nobody comes after him.
It is by design.
Yeah. It's sad.
It is by design. It's working like a fine-tuned machine.
Yeah.
Redlining.
Mm-hmm.
That creates the disproportioning in the school system and the education, and just trickles down to the pipeline to the jail.
There are a lot of people that would care that they're oblivious to it.
Oh yeah.
I'm telling you, I was oblivious to it.
I was that person. I had no.
Well, she's
when you told me
oblivious
that, I said,
anyway to a lot of it.
If your zip code is defining what you have access to, whether you have health, whether you get the right schooling, whether there is a grocery store where you can get good, nutritious food, play space. Kids learn on the playground how to navigate conflict, how to build relationships. You know me, Maribeth, I'm not about making excuses. I'd like to explain that if you expose a child to a certain kind of trauma and expect them to wind up any other way if you don't intervene, then you're just fooling yourself. My grandmama used to say, baby, you're beating your head against the wall and you'll be blinded by your own blood.
How do you help the child who's parented by someone who was never parented by someone who was never parented?
We think of this as building competency in an area where you had no help previously. You and I were raised on the spare the rod, spoil the child philosophy. And I can remember many a day going out and picking my own switch. Many of the children that I see have never had that kind of unconditional, yeah, you did a bad thing. Yeah, okay, that was wrong. But I still love you, and we're going to make this work. What they get is
spanking and anger. Rick's daughter Allison has been a teacher for 15 years.
My big thing with parenting, actually, as a teacher looking at parents, there's only so many times you can spank and it works, especially as they get older. There's only so many things you can take away from a kid. They'll figure out how to have a good time. The only thing that a parent has on their side is for their kid to respect them and love them. And if you don't have that, you got to put the blame somewhere. You got to have somebody else do something and control. If you don't have that, you don't have anything.
Yeah. I remember how my family felt about me going to jail, and during a bond hearing, Mom basically told the judge that if I broke any rules at all, she would turn me in a heartbeat. No problem with that at all. I'd be the toughest warden she ever had.
You mean she'd be the toughest warden you ever had?
Yeah, she would be the toughest.
She knew when she said, well, if he does it, I'll call. She knew she would never have to call. She knew it. She knew he wouldn't because he respected her. He loved her. He didn't want to hurt her. She was not just his parent, she was his friend. They had a relationship. And she had spent 49 years getting that relationship together and keeping it and maintaining it. So that when she needed to, whether he was 6 years old, whether he was 12 years old, or whether he was 49 years old, when she needed to put her foot down and say, this isn't happening, he said, okay. And
well put.
So many parents, I think that they know that they don't have that control. And it's because they have not put in the time to have the relationship.
DeAndre and Vanessa Brown have invested the time, so it took just one night in jail on a misdemeanor charge to get their 21-year-old son back on the right track.
My mama made sure we all understood that don't call me, because they don't bother folks out.
So does she still stay on you?
Like white on rice.
You know, that's what a mom's supposed to do, right?
One of my mottos is never judge a man for the decision he makes until you first check his options. So in most cases, I look at the situation, and each situation is different. Sometimes sometimes there are no good decisions you can make, but that's not always the case. And I don't let people use it as an excuse, because what generally happens is we run to, yeah, but, the hell with yeah, but, because somebody else was in that same situation, made a different choice. And we have to stop telling people they're making mistakes. If I do something intentionally, that's not a mistake. A mistake is going to Kroger and I thought I scanned the milk, get home and realize I didn't. A decision is not intentionally not scanning the milk and taking it home. Stop.
DeAndre's brand of love can be tough, but he also knows when a different vibe is needed.
Mr. Brown said it to me. He said, it's gonna be a day where you're gonna not be able to use your brain or your toughness to get through this situation.
DeAndre showed that softer kind of love to Antonio Jones when the younger man encountered the one hurt big enough to crack the protective shell he'd built around his heart.
He died when he was 4 years ago. I literally came back and looked him in his eyes and cried. You was right. I couldn't do nothing about this situation. And for my son to grab my hand and tell me, ask me, help me, Dad, help me. And I literally couldn't do nothing, that broke me. Like, it literally broke my soul. Like, for him to ask me for help and I couldn't do anything, I got to the point where I didn't even want to be here on earth no more. Like, I came back to the Lifeline because of it, because I feel like that's not a re-entry program for me. That's family, that's home.
But what God is saying to you, that if you're alive, don't worry about yesterday. I haven't given up on you.
Joe Reed doesn't know Antonio Jones, but he knows exactly what Antonio means. There are all types of families. You don't have to be born into a strong one to have a family that truly has your back. And that kind of family is priceless.
Is it too big to say he's the dad you needed?
Oh, most definitely. I'm not too ashamed of that, though. He's a good father figure, the friend, the teacher. You hear me? Like, he's just somebody who you can look up to and be like, you know what, if he can do it, and I've heard his story, I know I can.
Coming up on Flip My Life, new plot twist. You might notice there's something new in the background. That's our home away from home, which, when we're not here working, we usually store at a friend's place. And we found out this morning as we were preparing to drop it off that place is no longer available.
Yeah. So we don't know where we're going to park this thing.
We can't really afford to take it back and forth across the state. That's really expensive, which is why we've been leaving it here.
It's very hard on the little tiny truck over there. That's why she said I could get a bigger truck.
I haven't said that yet.
Oh.
He's had 6 trucks since we've been together, and we've only been together 5 years.
Man needs his truck.
But how many?
Well.
And every one of them is going to be the last one. But we digress. Our problem this morning is we need to find a place to put this truck, because if we leave it at the house,
No telling if it'll even be here when we get back, much less broken into and tore out.
after 2 break-ins and 2 stolen cars left in the backyard, I know I'm a little nervous.
You look nervous.
We'll see. I am nervous. I'm also nervous about you buying a new truck and telling me it's the last truck.
It could be.
But, as I said, that's another story. So, we'll see what happens next time we're in town.
Yep.
Good
Hello.
morning.
Is there anybody named Tiny here?
Can I give you a hug? And there's nothing tiny about a gift a Memphis businessman gives to Flip My Life. And we know you didn't want to be thanked, but
It meant a lot.
it meant an awful lot.
No, we appreciate all that. Again, we do things just because it's the right thing to do.
Plus,
I don't want to be a part of a system that we just put people in jail. And that's all we do is put people in jail.
a community answers the call for help.
And my hope is that we can lift up the lives of the people who come here as they start to rebuild their lives in the next chapter of their lives.
And a bit later,
If my uncles have been doctors, I've been a doctor. If they have been a lawyer, I've been a lawyer. So everything is learned behavior. Where would you be if your mom was a junkie? Where would you be if your dad wasn't in your life? Where would you be if you didn't have that significant role model, mentor to come in and say, hey, this is how you do things. This is how you govern yourself. This is how you maneuver through this world. They'd be in the same shape of these kids, if not worse. Because let's be honest, the people with privilege fuck up a lot more. They just got a lot more money to clean it up. So when you start looking at it, I mean, who's doing what with more and less?
the incredible journey from hoodlum to headmaster, how one man's promise to God is helping break the cycle of generational poverty. Don't miss the next episode of Flip My Life, sponsored in part by the Tennessee Valley Authority.